Welcome to Faith, Fuel, and Fitness, the Integrity Way, with your hosts, John and Debbie Morris from Integrity Training Systems.
Hey, everybody. We're so glad to be back. We're thankful that the world has thawed.
Yes.
And we managed to work last week, even though it was mega snow.
Right.
And made it to work every day.
Well, mega snow if you're from Missouri. If you're from, like, the north.
Right.
Don't even worry about how much
A whole
snow
lot
we
of
got.
nothing. Yeah, exactly. But thankfully, we were able to keep working, and we are glad to be here. First question, John. I'm gonna position this question directly at you.
Okay, let's get it.
Okay. Can you out-exercise a bad diet?
Well, I'm going to tell you that if you can, you really shouldn't. And you're genetically blessed, and that's great. We're all happy for you. And one day you're probably still going to die because you're not going to be healthy. You are 1 in a billion. The answer to that question is no, not really, and not under normal circumstances. Like I said, a genetically blessed person who potentially is on some anabolic steroids, maybe you watch them do it. I've got one gentleman I can speak on very specifically that I used to watch that had a 6-pack, and he used to eat Oreos and ended up with digestive issues and literally ulcerated colitis. So it's like, yeah, you're going to see it sometimes visually, but
Right.
what's going on the inside? And
Right.
so, no, you really can't. I mean, it's kind of interesting to see in our line of work how people will come into a gym and they will give you 7 days a week, 2 hours a day, brutal, knockdown, drag out, vomit-inducing workouts, but you cannot take away their glass of red wine every night.
Right.
You know, it's like,
Or their dark chocolate in
Yeah.
the afternoon, or
you know, and the
after
thing
dinner
is,
snack.
the problem with that is then they come to us, you know, these people, and they're like, man, I just wish that I could get some faster results, or, you know, the scale's not changing, or my goal's not really showing up, or I still just feel so lethargic. I still feel so tired. And the answer isn't working harder. Like in fact, sometimes you'll find that you're actually almost working harder than you need to.
Or should. Maybe you're
right.
having
Yeah,
almost
you might
like
not
a
even be
cortisol
getting the
response.
recovery that you need because you're trying to outwork something that's actually harming you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And even as a trainer, you know, because you're a personal trainer at Integrity, obviously I've been personal training since I think I was born.
Yeah.
But I mean, what do you tell your clients, you know, when they come in and they train with you 3 days a week and they're killing it, and you know that they truly are giving you 100% of what they have, but they really they're not getting
Walk
the
them
results.
over to the corner that's hanging above the boxing area, and I pointed a picture of Cookie Monster laying in a bed eating a plate of cookies with crumbs all over his chest that says, OMG, I can't lose weight. It must be my trainer's fault. And I explain, you're working great. You know, your workouts are phenomenal. I'm proud of you, the work that you're putting in. But what people need to start to do when you're talking about health and wellness, now we're kind of talking about goals here, but I'm talking about overall health and wellness, which if you get that in line, your goals will follow. You want to think about changing your food as a workout or exercise set. Now, this is specific to the people that are willing to put the work in. The question is, can you outwork a bad diet? If you're willing to put the work in, if you're rucking, if you're working out, you're bench pressing, you're lat pull down, and you're running on the treadmill, you're putting those hours in, that time under tension is what's changing your musculature. It's what's burning your calories. You want to look at your food as time under tension as well. And what I mean by that is sometimes you have to be willing to say, yes, stuffed crust pizza with every flavor and type of cheese and every type of meat on it would be delicious and the most sating to my appetite, but my actually still well done, good tasting chicken and vegetables are going to get me to the goal that I'm trying to achieve. It's a tension. If you're trying to lose weight, you should never starve yourself, but there may be moments where you experience and feel hunger. It's a tension, right? You know, it's no different than the guys that are trying to hard gain muscle. You're going to eat, especially when you're eating clean, to discomfort sometimes. It's a tension. If you don't start being willing to deal with the tension of not eating the way you should be eating, it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be hard to deal with. Now, let me also add to that if you're eating plain chicken and green beans 4 times a day, you're also struggling more than you should be, just like the person that's trying to work out 20 hours a week. You have to find those clean, healthy options that still have a good taste. Work with someone like you, Deb, that can give options and scenarios that are going to work better. It doesn't mean you're all on one side or you're all on the other, but you say this nonstop. Poison in moderation is still poison. So it's a matter of figuring out how to eat clean when it tastes good and not bringing that poison in.
Right. And I think that a lot of people just feel somewhat confused with how much exercise, should be as part of my day. I mean, how many hours do I need to spend in the gym each week? And, how much of it should be cardio and how much of it should be weight training? I mean, how much high intensity training should I do? Of course, no one really ever asks how much should I stretch or foam roll. We obviously
Right.
give them assignments on that, but what do you tell a person when they're really trying to push it? They really want to get themselves to a different place. They need to lower their blood pressure. They need to get better blood sugar. They need to lose weight. They just need to get their whole system in check, and they're willing to put the time and effort in on committing to their food. But then they need to know, like, what does it really take in the gym?
Well, first off, everybody's different. Everybody is going to be in a different place from a strength perspective, a mobility perspective, a cardiovascular perspective. I've seen people that need to lose 100 pounds that can run a mile. I've seen people who you would otherwise look at and say, oh, they're probably in pretty good shape, that can't run a mile. So everybody is different. But what it comes down to is there's a little bit of almost science experimenting, if you will, where you just have to watch how you feel. So as you're eating the way you should be eating, you clean up your diet, you watch for energy regulation, you know that you're kind of sleeping enough that you should be recovering, and you start working out in the gym. Let's say you add strength training 3 days a week, and then you're doing cardio 2 days a week, just as a general premise. Are you feeling energized in your next day? Are you feeling recovered? How long are you sore? Are you sore at all? These are variables that you start to look at to say, okay, are we changing? Are we seeing an adaptation of our body toward the goal that we're trying to achieve? And how do we feel? I really think that is a very missed parameter. And so to answer your question, what does it take in the gym? I definitely think it takes getting yourself to an elevated heart rate, getting yourself to where you're breaking a sweat, getting yourself to where your muscles feel where they've been taxed, time under tension. I talk about that all day long for muscle tissue adaptation and changing. All of these things are important, but at the end of the day, the recovery is key. And so watching how you feel around those workouts, I have people that work out 7 days a week, 2 hours a day. That does exist, and that works for a few people. But most people require a minimum of 1 rest day. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you aren't sleeping 6 to 8 hours a night, which who really does, you really do have to watch how much you work out through the week, because you will end up tearing your system down. I have a client who just had COVID, and coming back from COVID has been really hard on her. Her cardio is just not there. Her lungs aren't there. Her heart doesn't feel like it's there. She really feels taxed by her workouts. The strength is down. But what's fascinating is she uses one of those watches that tells you what your rest patterns are, how much energy you have, stuff that kind of goes above my head from a technological level. Her rest and recovery is through the roof. Like what she's getting out of her workouts as far as this watch is concerned, if you want to take its knowledge or its report as the 100% truth, what she's getting out of that is actually better than before COVID when she was working out more. Right. And the reason is because it's forced her to kind of slow down and pay a little more attention to what work she's putting in the gym.
I feel like there are a lot of people out there that really could be using the wrong tools and navigating themselves actually to a position to where they're really not feeling their very best. And that's what our staff does at Integrity. We really try to help you to identify where are your imbalances, how can we strengthen you appropriately per your body type and per your particular situation. We offer a free personal fitness assessment. And to try to schedule one of those with our personal trainer, you can give us a call at 636-299-2208. We also offer a 6-month nutrition program where we tell you exactly what to eat and really teach you a lot of science behind the food. You can get more information on that nutrition program by taking a look at integritytrainingsystems.com. Hi, everybody. So good to be back. We were talking a little bit before the break about sleep, John. You kind of mentioned that. And sleep, I think people discount the importance of sleep and the recovery that it does, and just really ultimately what it can do from a restorative standpoint on your organs and really how it can prevent disease as well as just premature aging. So, I mean, sleep it plays a pretty big role. And I know this because of all the years that I've done nutrition and all the different people that I've worked with, the night shift people and the train conductors and just all the different people that you work with at over-the-road truck drivers that have all these different scenarios. And you can just see that they deal with different health issues than the typical because of those sleep patterns and just how it impacts them. Now, this is just, from a medical standpoint, but the average person, if you could, stick with 6 to 7 hours sleep, that's typically going to be enough, for a person to actually restore. But really, when you go to sleep makes a big difference. So, being able to get to sleep within the 10 o'clock hour makes a big difference in how someone ends up feeling ultimately. So the later you stay up, the difference it can actually ultimately make on the body. The Chinese medicine actually has a clock for each organ, and the hours that you're not sleeping can impact those particular organs. But if you keep waking up at a certain time every night, it actually tells you that organ may be struggling. So it just tells you that sleep is there for a reason. It has a purpose, and the purpose is restoration. But ultimately, eating too close to sleeping can affect the quality of that sleep. So that's why it's also important. A lot of times people think just from a fat burning perspective that it's important to not eat before sleep.
Right.
But ultimately it's important to not eat within that 3-hour window of sleep because you don't want to spend your evening digesting. You want to spend your evening actually restoring.
I think that's a valid, a big missed point with the eat before bed thing. The myth of debunking, or it is a myth or it isn't a myth, that a lot of people get hung up on is it has less to do with that fat burning. Like, well, if you eat it right before bed, it's going to store and put fat on you, and more to do with like, what are you doing when you should be recovering? Because if you're digesting, you're putting energy towards that, right?
Right.
You're putting process towards that. Have you ever ate something right before you go to bed and had some like super weird out of the world dreams?
Right.
And then you wake up in a sweat, or you just feel like you never really hit REM sleep or get a deep sleep, and you wake up in the morning thinking about weird stuff. Like, there's processes that are occurring during that digestion that may not just be in your gut. They may be in your brain or your head. What kind of energy are you using? Yeah,
one of my employees today, yelled out, "Hey, you should talk about, what was," they were all just talking I was working the bakery today, and they were all just talking in a circle about the different things I had taught them over the years in nutrition, because a lot of the people that work my bakery also work at our gym. So it's just, we kind of multitask. But this one girl, she yelled out, and she goes, "I remember when you taught me and you told me, Debbie, you said, do not eat fruit at night." She said it so serious. And I was like, yeah, I told you not to do that. And she's like, you were right, because it was just blowing up my blood sugar right before I went to bed. And then I would wake up more hungry the next day because my blood sugar would fall in the middle of the night. So I would wake up craving something, wanting something, needing something. She said, but if I just eat, my good quality vegetables, I put some good fat on there, I have some quality protein for dinner, then I don't end up waking up as hungry the next day. And I also feel like I ended up achieving a better night's rest.
Right. And if you're someone like me, everybody's different in this stuff, guys. So like when we say things like get your 6 to 7 hours of sleep, I know a guy that could function off 2 hours of sleep. Freaks me out. Like him and I used to hang out with this guy at least twice a week when I was in high school and college. And I mean, he would legitimately play video games until 4 a.m. and he would get up at 6 and go to work. I mean, it was like clockwork. He was married. He ended up getting married. He had a kid, and he would hang out with his kid till 9, 10 o'clock at night, put his kid to bed, and then play video games, and then I'd play with them for a couple hours, and I'm like, okay, I got to go to bed, and I don't even got to be up when this guy's got to be up. Now, he did at some point talk about how he didn't feel well. So again, just because you can do that doesn't mean you should. We can get into the motivation of, well, we'll sleep when we're dead because we're building a company, building an empire. There's validity to all that too. There's different seasons of life. But what we're saying is everybody is a little bit different on what you need from sleep. So you really have to take a step back and look at how you're feeling.
Right.
It is a variable. If your food is right and your exercise is right, and we've started honing these things in and you still just don't feel good, how are you resting and recovering? I gave you an example, a little bit different version of me. If I get less than 6 to 7 hours of sleep, my bipolarism, if you will, I've had one psychiatrist diagnose me as that. The rest of them are kind of like, well, there's different variables, whatever. But let's just talk about my anxiety and depression for a moment here. If I get less sleep than that, my effects throughout a day can be different. Now, let me take that a step further. It's no secret that John likes carbs. Hi, my name is John Morris, and I'm a carbivore. I have to go to Carbaholic Anonymous meetings. But if I eat that stuff right before bed, especially, like, let's just talk fruit. Let's not even talk about, like, refined sugars, bad sugar, stuff like that I stay away from.
Did you want to talk about pineapple?
Let's talk about, no, I'm fine on the pineapple right now.
Okay.
So Deb actually gets to have pineapple right now, which is super weird because usually she gets to eat lettuce and, like, paint. I mean, okay, she doesn't eat anything is what I'm trying to say here, but she gets to have pineapple right now, like 2 pieces a day, which leaves a lot of pineapple in the refrigerator, and I've been killing it. Because I'm that dude that's like, I have a really good ability to stay away from things I shouldn't have if they're not in my house, which, is part of why I married Debbie, was because I knew she would help me to not have bad stuff in my house. But pineapple has been around my house a lot lately, and I've been putting it down. But here's the thing. If I eat that right before bedtime, if I eat even fructose right before bedtime, to your client's point about the employee's point about the blood sugar spike, when you have the psychological conditions that I have from traumatic brain injuries, when I wake up in the morning, I am a monster. So what happens is my blood sugar spikes. I will
attest to that.
My blood sugar spikes overnight and it falls. Now, anybody that's ever met a like serious diabetic knows what that's like. I had a friend, his girlfriend would literally go into like rage fight mode. And instead of thinking, wow, my girlfriend's crazy, I need to fight back, he knew he had to get her blood sugar levels regulated. I had an over-the-road truck driver as a cop that tried to fight me and then literally fell asleep and started snoring because his blood sugar went that way. So I just want everybody to consider that, A, everybody's a little bit different when it comes to this stuff, but B, back circling to the point, when you're consuming something that close to bedtime, you really want to think about, how is this affecting my recovery?
Exactly. There's just so many things to think about. You can spin your wheels when it comes to trying to get healthy and not really get where you want to go and where you need to go. I feel like that's what we do. We cut you to the front of the line. We really get the details for you. It's our job to figure those details out from a personal training perspective, but also from a nutrition perspective. For a meeting with a personal trainer to assess you, identify muscle imbalances, teach you to stretch, teach you to foam roll, please give us a call at 636-299-2208. Or for more information on a 6-month nutrition program with myself, where we tell you exactly what to eat, where to buy it from, how to prepare it, what to order when you go out, and then any vitamins and minerals that you should be taking. you can take a look at us at integritytrainingsystems.com. Hey everybody, so good to be back. Okay, so Saturday, I take clients. Of course, I do my master's class in the middle of the day where we do group nutrition. And it was a tough day. I'm going to be real honest with you because I truly feel led to help every person that walks in the door by God. And so I'm inspired to really speak what I feel like He would have me to speak with each individual person. And I had some clients that had some serious struggling going on.
Right.
Now, these were new clients. So it wasn't like, we okay, we're on a rocky way here. It's just, they hadn't even started yet.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, the problem is that a lot of people are dealing with struggles right now. There's just a lot going on in our world.
Our world has, it's in a bad spot.
Right. I would say the station definitely is, all about identifying the issues and the concerns with this current world system we have right now, right? Well, unfortunately, people are turning to food, which I guess you could venture to say is better than alcohol and drugs, right?
Arguable.
Except for the fact that food is so widely acceptable.
We'll talk about my experience with all those things in
Right,
this segment.
Right. But just saying that this is a real situation. Okay. And so I've met with 2 different people on Saturday, and they have a laundry list of health issues. And I am not an emotion. John, you can attest to this. I'm not an emotional person.
Right.
I do not cry. I don't sit around and get, emotional over things.
Which is crazy because she's not kidding when she talks about her attachment to clients. I have to admit that, yes, I have that same attachment, but I'll cut out. I'm like, I can't help you anymore. If you're not willing to do it, then we'll just train and I hope the best for you. But that's not how you work.
Yeah.
You're in it, but you're not an emotional responding person.
Right. So the first half of a session, everything I was saying was being met with just absolute resistance. So I backed up from the table. I crossed my legs. I set down my pencil and I just sat there and listened to the person talk, and I refused to speak back. And then under my breath, I asked God that He would get involved. I said, I wanted you involved from the very beginning, but maybe I've tried to take the lead. So I'm going to ask that you step in and you speak for me, because at this point, I don't know how to help this person.
Right.
And He did the job for me. But at the end of the day, she finally admitted to what her problems were. And what her problems are, they're not that all the things, she agrees with all the things I'm telling her that she's having are causing the immune triggers.
Right.
And they're causing the health issues that she's having. Unfortunately, certain doctors have told her to eat those foods, so it's given her a reason to go ahead and keep eating them. But those doctors that she has met with, they don't have the knowledge from an immune system standpoint on how food will impact her. Okay. So she is finally willing to admit that I'm an emotional eater. And so when the stress comes, I just take it out. I take it on food. She says, but then I feel great shame after I do it. And let me just tell you, in 22 years, I've heard this more times than I can count. Over 1,000, 2,000 times.
I just made a joke in the last segment about being a carbaholic.
Right.
I'm an emotional eater to the T. Me, your husband.
And so the thing is I don't connect with that. Okay, I don't connect with emotional eating. I was once interviewed because of the 3 things that I've learned. And he said, what do you feel like is your weakest point? And I said, I'm not able to nurture and truly understand, because I know that I will die if I eat bad food.
Right.
And it is a legitimate truth. And so I don't eat it. but yet I meet with people that I can see their future, and I can say, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to die.
Yeah, you just know science. You just know the results of what they're putting into their body and where their body is headed.
Right. So we've gone to a counselor for John, and I sought this counselor out many, many years ago. He's a Christian man, and John was dealing with extreme levels of PTSD. And he was not comfortable going to a counselor at the time. So I started going to the counselor, which was interesting, to be completely honest with you. And so I start meeting with the counselor, and I start telling him the situations and the things that come up. And so the counselor tries to give me advice. And then finally, I think it was like the 5th session, the counselor's like, Debbie, you have to bring him here. And
you can't fix him.
And I was like, okay, but you don't understand, go home and try to tell, this ginormous person that he has to come with you. Well, finally, John decides to go. One of the things, the guy's brilliant, to be completely honest with you. I went basically to every session, and I would take notes.
I just don't remember a lot of things. It's part of my condition from my traumatic brain injuries is, I'd get there and I'd be like, I've been pretty good. I've had a good week. And Deb's like, he almost killed someone at a gas station Tuesday. And I'm like, oh. Yeah, I did that, and I forgot about that. So she was.
That was a joke. You did not almost do that, but
I thought about it.
Yeah, he thought about it. But anyways, so I would take down the books, and I would actually read the books that he would suggest. It was great sessions. And so the one thing that he said that has always stood out to me, and I really owned it, and I actually use it with clients, was he said, "Okay, John, when something triggers you, you have what is called a reactionary gap. You have a period of time, and it's a small period of time, where you can make a choice to either respond and make a deal of it or to not make a deal of it. Now, that's a big deal when someone at one point was being shot at and a dog was attacking their arm at the same time, and they had to shoot the dog and then shoot down the hall to someone that was shooting at them with a shotgun. That little reactionary gap concept is cute.
Well, and that's why he used it, though, is he was explaining, like, you have to choose in that moment how you're going to react.
Right.
And you're making the right decision there.
Right.
So when you have a normal, quote unquote, situation that comes at you that by all means should be easier to handle than that one, you got to create that same gap.
And so what I tell a client is you have to have the discipline to create a series of I would say sort of like almost like instructions of what to do during that reactionary gap, right? And so in a minute, I just want to ask you some questions because you have been an emotional eater. And so I want to ask you some standard questions about it. But what I want to say is during that reactionary gap time, this is the time for you to create your formula. So, okay, let's say your spouse says something horrible. I mean, they're just downright mean to you. And so your first instinct is, I'm going to go get some cake. I'm going to go get some ice cream. I'm going to go get some cookies.
Sure.
Let's say you find out that you lost a bunch of money. Let's say you find out that someone died. Let's say you find out that, I don't know, but it's all scenarios. You have the opportunity at that moment to say, I need to go this way instead of that way. And that way is a path of destruction and shame, and it's going to completely throw me off for the entire week. And this way is a path where I know I can't go near the kitchen. I know I'm going to have to open my Bible. I know I'm going to have to read the entire scripture about putting on the full armor of God. I know I'm going to have to deflect how I'm feeling. I know I'm probably going to have to leave my house. I may have to get down on the ground and do push-ups. I may have to read a list of affirmations telling me that I am more than a conqueror. I can do all things through Christ. I don't know what you need to do, but everybody's going to have a different set of instructions for them that's going to create a response during that reactionary gap that's going to pull them through and pull them out of where they're at with their emotions. And so, John, let's say that you get hit with a major stressor. I know for you, let's say someone just really, really badmouths you. I mean, they really put you down behind your back, and you find out it's going to cost you money, and there's just a whole host of issues that end up being tied to it, and you have to deal with it. what's the first thing you're going to want to do?
Okay, so this is behind my back. Like I don't get to punch them out right
Right.
there.
No, it's all happening behind your back.
I mean, here's the thing is the first thing that I turn to, and it's because of an imbalance in brain chemistry and an emotional eating attachment, is I want candy. I look for that almost euphoric insulin surging spike. And I'm not talking about like even let me eat a bag of Skittles. I'm talking like 2 bags of king size Skittles, a Mountain Dew, and ice cream bar. Like I'm talking about legitimately using sugar as a brain chemistry altering drug.
Right.
And I think that a lot of people don't realize that's what they're doing. And with our world being as crazy it is now, I find that people are at a place now where I used to talk to people and they would be one type of an emotional eater. You had the people who were celebratory emotional eaters, and you had the people that were bad day, need to cope with the trauma of my day, like you're talking about right now, emotional eaters. The world is very quickly spiraling towards being both. And if you eat every time something positive happens and you eat bad every time something negative happens as well, there's really not a time that you're not wanting to eat bad. It's an everyday, every minute situation because there's always going to be something happening and it's either bad or good. Now, predominantly what people are turning to food for are the bads, but as we discussed earlier, bads are high right now. So people are turning to this. And I'm going to tell you, as someone who's been an alcoholic, as someone who's been addicted to painkillers, as someone who's been addicted to chemistry-altering drugs, I've given all of that up. I still slip for sugar from time to time because it is accepted. The world doesn't shun you for it. In fact, they tell you that it's okay. These are parts of the problem. You mentioned a food earlier where someone is consuming it and they're even being told by a doctor that it's okay. How hard is that to give up? You've got the people that you're looking to for health telling you can have something. Your friends are telling you it's acceptable. Your family's saying, well, you're just having a little bit or whatever. Is it really that big of a deal? And yeah, that's the voice on the shoulder. And then you've got this random nutrition coach that's the first time you've met, and she's like, yeah, no, we got to cut that. I mean, that's hard to swallow, especially when, let's face it, you want it.
Right.
You're sitting on the other side of that desk saying, but that's what I want.
Right.
And the reason you're turning to it is because you are actually trying to alter the chemical strain of your brain to change your mood.
Right. And I don't even know if all doctors agree that food can actually change your neurotransmitters. I really don't know
sure
that
I
believe that all doctors really believe in that.
Not all people believe that. It's just all walks of life, whether you're a doctor or not. Have you studied that regard of food?
Right. Because I know I've done nutrition with several doctors that just kind of
that refer people for nutrition to you, and they will say, look, I'm really good at X, Y, and Z,
right,
but that's not what I do.
Right. So but the problem is that people trust the doctors.
Right.
They want to hear it from the doctor.
Yes.
And so you just have to recognize you can't put all your faith in that because those people are amazing and they will really help you, but it's a lot to expect them to do.
Watch how much you have to memorize, and you don't do surgery or tell people what medicine
exactly. And I don't try to act like I am a doctor.
Right.
You know what I mean? So for more information on how to eat, to not alter your brain in a negative way, but to actually alter it in a positive way, take a look at us at integritytrainingsystems.com. We have a very thorough 6-month nutrition program, and we can help you get to a better place. Also, to schedule a free personal fitness assessment with our personal trainers, you can also take a look at integritytrainingsystems.com, or you can give us a call at 636-299-2208. Hey everybody, it's good to be back. This is a tough subject, that we're talking about, emotional eating, but it's a real subject. And, maybe people will tune off right now because they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm not an emotional eater. This isn't really my thing. And it's like, okay, maybe you're not, but those people are actually few and far between.
But if you're not an emotional eater, you got to understand that a lot of people are.
Right.
And so, yeah, maybe this isn't for you, but if you've got a friend or a family member that is really trying to alter the way they're living right now through losing weight or chasing a goal or just trying to get their health in line, maybe this segment's for you to hear that saying, oh, come on, bro, it's one beer, isn't the right thing to say.
Right.
Oh, come on, bro, it's one slice of cake, or come on, it's my wedding, you're my bridesmaid, you're really not going to have cake with me? It's more than just the moment.
Right.
Because you may be dealing with someone. I mean, this blows my mind. And again, it's like, I feel like I always have to talk about my previous addictions because it gives me some credibility to say, if you think someone's going to be like, come on, it's just one shot, it's one hit of heroin, it's just one line of Coke. You know, like, could you imagine if your mom told you that? You know, your mom's like, come on, you know, it's just one spoonful, take the hit. Like, that's what happens, though. I've got a client. He's in his 50s. When he goes to his parents are like, what do you mean you're not going to eat the chili I made you? What do you mean you're not going to eat the cake I made you? And it's literally like store grade cake, like bad ingredients. And he's really doing all he can to be healthy. And the guilt causes him to cave and to eat this stuff. And so his health is actually getting hit and dinged out of a guilt of upsetting a family member.
Right, because they just don't understand the science behind it.
If you're listening to this and you are someone who doesn't understand the science and you're someone who doesn't understand why your friend or family member is saying they have to kind of stay away from that, I'm not asking for you to advocate for their decision, but maybe respect it. You know, instead of being hard on them and being like, oh, do you think you're better than me? No, they don't. They actually are, in fact, accepting that they're not as good as you and they can't handle having that as part of their life.
There are foods that are changing a person's brain chemistry.
Absolutely.
Just plain and simple. And so when you have been completely connected to those foods, and, you know, like I'll use John as the example, it is so obvious when he's had sugar. You know, I mean, you can see it on his face. You can see it in his eyes.
My eyes are awesome. Back when I used to fight, I would eat Sour Patch Kids as an insulin rush right before I would fight. And, you know, a lot of times if you have an insulin surge, you'll get shaky. The only way I get shaky is if I don't then use force. So, like, let's say I were to sit here and eat candy in front of you guys and sit here, I'd start shaking. I'd get the cold sweats. I'd get the kind of, you know, messed up stomach feeling if I had too much sugar. But if I started punching this table, I would actually get a surge of strength and my veins would pop out and my muscle tissue would feel elevated. And so I would take it in right before I would have a match. And the guys that I would fight would talk to me afterwards about how I looked like I was demon possessed because my eyes would be black. I mean, my eyes were literally dilating. My body chemistry was completely changing based off of what I was consuming.
So the next day when you try to not eat sugar, you know, you try to make it through the entire day, there's a reason why it's so difficult. And it isn't just because you're, you know, mentally weak or you don't possess the willpower. Number one, you've become metabolically inefficient. So you're not actually able to fast without it because all of the sugar that you've been having is making you less and less fat adapted, and it's making you more insulin dependent. So your body's always waiting for the next log of insulin that you're going to put on it. And let me tell you, caffeine only makes it 100 times worse. So then you start to kind of feel the lull of not having the sugar. And then you're like, well, I just got to go get some caffeine because I'm really feeling low. I'm really feeling cranky. I'm having a hard time.
And I'm going to tell you right now, if you look at caffeine, I mean, there really aren't that many caffeine options that aren't saturated with sugar. And now I know you're going to argue, well, the sugar-free ones, but take a look at the ingredient list.
Right.
When you're dealing with a sugar, alcohol, or a replacement, there's a reason it tastes good. If you've ever had a caffeinated beverage that tasted like dirt and said it was sugar-free, it's probably true. But if you're still getting a solid flavor that you're just kind of really into and you keep going back to that specific one, you're probably bringing in some form of sugar replacement that's creating the same connection in your brain.
And so that sugar and the caffeine is throwing off your hormones as well as your neurotransmitter levels in your brain. This is why it is so difficult to get yourself back into a normal rhythm. This is why the next day you make it one day, maybe you make it 2 days, and then the third day you just go ahead and cave. Fasting can be so effective to be able to wipe the slate clean and to really set yourself into a different pattern, into a different motion, to where you're basically saying, listen, insulin pattern, you might have been this before, but now we're moving into this territory. It also flips the autophagy switch, and it makes it to where the body detoxifies on the insides. It's called self-detoxification. So fasting can be breakthrough for folks when they have had too much emotional eating, to really truly get them to a place to where you can kind of clean the slate. But in my opinion, if you have been emotionally eating on a regular basis, you need to meet with someone that can get to the root at what is happening when you experience that emotion. What is truly at the root of that emotion? What is happening? What is triggering you?
You're actually even dealing with more than we can do. It's beyond a personal trainer and a nutrition coach. You use us to get your variables in line. You get your exercise where it needs to be. We teach you how to do that. Deb teaches you how to eat right so that you have what you're supposed to go to get away from those elements. But I'm talking about, like you've said, I've even had to go to a counselor. You talk to somebody about what is the root cause of sending you to those foods.
Right. And have you ever talked about it before? I mean, or do you just sort of like mask the fact that you have this issue,
right,
and just keep sort of, smoldering it a little bit? I mean, the reality, and then it keeps coming back to the surface.
And you say this a lot, poison in moderation is still poison. So here's the deal. If you're someone who can bring something in that we all know is not something that's really good for you, okay, and you are able to not have it again the next day, that is great for you, right? But when you tell somebody, hey, quit craving that, or hey, just have it once and don't have it the next day, we're talking chemistry here. We're talking about actually internal health. It's more than a decision for some people. That would be like you having a cold, and every time you cough, I say, hey, quit coughing. It's actually a symptom of something that's occurring in the body. So you may not be able to be empathetic towards it because you're not dealing with it, but it's real. So when you tell someone, hey, it's just one drink, or hey, it's just one taste, or hey, you're just having a couple bites, you got to understand they might spiral. And it's not because they're weak. They actually alter their brain chemistry and create not only a emotional craving, which we're working on making the person stronger to deal with, but a biological chemical craving that might not even be something that they could overcome if they weren't emotional.
When we went to the Amen Clinic for John, the psychiatrist and the functional medicine doctor met with him, and based off of the brain scan that they did, they saw the issues that John had from the brain injury. And the doctor said, at one point he was drinking 4 energy drinks a day, and the doctor said, you need to have none.
Right.
You cannot even have one.
Right. They don't want me to have any caffeine.
And they said zero sugar.
And they actually said they would like to see me in a fully ketogenic diet.
State. Yeah. And so she wasn't kidding around.
Right.
I mean, she basically said, you will not be okay if you have these things.
Right.
So you can say, I have a brain issue, I'm going to have it for the rest of my life, but you're making it worse if you have those things and you're choosing to have those things.
Right.
So you need someone to help you get to the root of a problem like that. If a doctor's being honest with you, they are going to look at you and tell you what you can and cannot or should and should not have. That is what I do for nutrition. If there's an issue, I'm going to be honest about it. I'm going to be real with you, and I'm going to tell you exactly how you need to navigate it.
Love you for that and hate you for that.
Right.
That's it. I mean, that's why we're here.
But you feel led by God to do it, and so that's why you do it. I want to see you have healing. I want to see you have health. I want to see you fight for change and truly live a quality life because of it. For more information on our nutrition program, you can take a look at us at integritytrainingsystems.com, or to schedule that free fitness assessment with any of our personal trainers, you can give us a call at 636 299-2208. Thank you for being so open, John. You have an amazing story of triumph and just overcoming and victory.
I know we don't have any time here, but I just have to add this. If you find yourself in a dark spot, health-wise, mental-wise, just reach out. Give us a call, because seriously, if I hadn't worked with Debbie when I did, I wouldn't even be here to tell the story. So thanks, guys.
God bless you all.